Hello guys and welcome back, and in today's tutorial we will understand different plots in Seaborn, especially the categorical plots. So I left it on the previous video on the Seaborn this plots, and we are working with the exercise dataset. So let us just import the libraries, plotting libraries, Seaborn and Matplotlib, and this Seaborn is built upon Matplotlib, so we will use both these libraries. So when you import this, just run this, and then after that in a data frame you load this exercise dataset, load underscore dataset exercise. This is a dataset which has already been preloaded in Seaborn and it is used for practicing. So we are using this exercise dataset, and just see the first 5 entries of this data frame, and we see that this has various columns, like 6 columns and 90. If you will see here the shape of the data, and it will show you 90 rows and 6 columns since we have worked with this. So just write here df dot shape to see the shape of the data. Now what happens is we have to plot this, and we see the data types of this, that its data type is data types is integer. We've got 3 integers and rest is category. That means diet, time and kind. They are in category, so they are not numeric. And how to plot these non-numeric values in Seaborn, today we will discuss this in this video. Now what happens is we stopped at the dist plots which we have seen here, and we've seen that this dist plot looks like something like this, which is a combination of a histogram and a KDE, and this only plots the numerical value. So you can plot here unnamed, you can plot here pulse, and you can plot here ID, which are the numeric value in this data set. But the question I left with was what to do with these categorical variables like pulse, like time, kind and diet. So we'll address this in this lecture. So what happens here is that we'll go with the categorical plots, and today we shall cover count plot, strip plot and one more plot, right? And that is swan plot. So what I do is I just write here sns.countPlot, and because I want a count plot, and then I give data, go into the data frame which I have created, that data is equals to df. What I want to plot on x-axis the kind, and the palette is magma, so I get something like this. Okay, now if I show you, this is a simple plot which will give me on x-axis the categorical variables which I have mentioned here, the kind of exercise, rest, walking or running, and on the y-axis I have got the count of it. So it is a good way of representing a categorical variable, and you can see here like it is a kind of a histogram for, you can say, a qualitative variable which is not numeric. So you're plotting a histogram for categorical variables with count plot. And what if I want to add one more feature here, like if I add hue, and this hue could be like diet, right? So I just do it and I get no fat and low fat diet, and I get the count of it, that for rest, no fat and low fat diet, what is the count of that? For walking, what is the count of walking for no fat or low fat diet? And for running also. So if you want to change this hue, you can just experiment this with time, and you will see here that for 1 minute, 15 minutes and 30 minutes, the rest exercise, the count is 10 each. For walking also, the count is 10 each, and for running 10 each. Now if you want to check it with numbers with some tool, so you can just write here df time, and you check the value count, that how many values are there, and you see that for 30 minutes is 30, for 15 minutes there are 30 values, and for 1 minute there are 30 values. And that's what we see here, that for 1 minute there are 30 values in each kind: rest, walking and running. So that's why it's plotted 10 each for each minute, right? Okay, next we go to the strip plot, right? So the strip plot is something similar to the scatter plot, but what happens here is that it gives you a little bit jitter here, so that to separate the values here. So what I do is I again call sns.catplot, and I tell it to go to data df. In x-axis I have taken diet, and on y-axis I have taken pulse, so that it will be plotted, and we can see that what pulse with what diet and with what kind of exercise you get. So the hue also gives the third variable, which gives a more deeper understanding of this data set, so that I can plot more information in a single graph. And this helps me to add a third variable here, which is kind, and I have added this thing, the kind, which I have to mention here what kind you want, and that is strip, and the palette is HUSL, and we see that we get such a plot. Okay, so now you see here that the kind is rest, walking and running, and you see the legend here, and this rest is denoted by pink color. This pink color, as you can see, that no fat diet, and the pulse rate, as you can see, is above 90 when you are doing the kind of exercises rest, and with no fat diet is here, and with low fat diet you see the pulse rate is somewhere around 80. So you can compare the pulse rate with the diet and with the kind of exercise in such plots. So this is a kind of strip plot here, right? Next we move on to one more similar plot, which is swan plot. It is almost similar to this strip plot, which is also kind of a scatter. But what we do is here that it just shows your data like this, right? So it is a simple cat plot. Again, sns.catplot we will use, and here we can write data. Now if you want to check what all signatures you can pass, just hit shift and tab, and you will get all these things like x, y, hue, data, row, column, and all these things you can pass in with this, right? So let's see this now. What is this? I have passed the data, and x I have passed the kind, y it is pulse, and the kind is swarm. Okay, and the palette is rainbow. When you plot this, you will get on x-axis the kind and on y-axis the pulse. Now, is it important to pass y-axis? Let's see. If I do not pass this y and I pass it as a comment, will it plot? Okay, let's just check it. Okay, I'm not getting comma here. Swarm and palette. I'll just remove this diet, and now yeah, there are two columns here. So what I do is I just remove this, and I just a very simple plot. Let's plot it. Okay, so you can see this only x-axis I have got, and y-axis I have got nothing. So to make it more representative, what I want is I give it a categorical plot, and kind is swarm, so I want to give this y-axis as pulse, and let's give palette as we have taken HUSL, and the kind is swarm, and this is what we got. Now you can add one more feature here like hue, and let this hue be diet, and let's check what we get. So this is what you are getting with diet, low fat and no fat diet, and you can compare it with the pulse rate and with the kind of exercise which one is performing, and you see that the highest pulse rate is attained when you're running, and also when you're on a no fat diet. So you are likely to lose more weight when you are on a no fat diet and your exercise is running, and that also for like 30 minutes. So if you want to check this, so let's just see. Instead of diet, let's just set the hue as time and see the pulse rate. So you see here that it is 30 minutes, that yes, for 30 minutes if you're running, you're likely to lose more weight because your pulse rate is very high, and your heart is really working very fast and very hard to pump in more blood to your strained lungs and muscles, right? So this is what it is, and that is how you can infer this swan plot. Now this swan plot, it is okay, this is the image which is being pasted. I just delete this. Right. So what happens here is that kind, okay, HUSL, and the kind is swarm. So what happens here is that this is this, as you can see, this swarm, this just resembles like a bee swarming. That's why it is being called as swarm. And since the data set has less values, that's why it has not been coming up in a more spread out manner. Otherwise it would have been like this. Okay, so this comes out like a bee swarming kind of a graph, and that's what we see in this swarm plot. So the categorical variables can be plotted in various ways, and we have seen here we can plot it through count plot, and it just shows you the histogram for qualitative variables like which are non-numeric. And we have seen these strip plots which are almost similar to the scatter plots, and also we have seen here swarm plots which are again similar to the strip plot, and just their graph representation is a little different to give it more representation. And also we have seen that we can add through hue, we can give it more representation and features and functionality. And let's add here time, and we can see that yes, this hue is giving us more dimensional, more feature addition in the same graph, right? And you can add on like the third variable here. So now this was it for this video, and the next we will go on for seeing the box and bar plots.